Hey everybody, welcome back to Fish Den 365. I'm Den Haring, and today is Topwater Tuesday. So we have a really good video for you today. I'm going to show you a simple topwater modification that will help you catch a lot more fish. We're going to talk about a bait called the Top Dollar today, but this modification doesn't just apply to the Top Dollar. It applies to all topwater lures. Walk the dog baits. I've done this to several other lures, and I've done it quite a bit on wake baits in order to make those more effective as well. So just because we have the Top Dollar that we're talking about today, if you don't have this bait, you're still going to want to watch the video because this applies to a lot of topwater baits. But in order to set this up, I think I have to tell a bit of a historical story about how I came upon doing this modification and why I do it. So I have 7 of these Top Dollars sitting here next to me right now, and they all have hooks on them. So these are the ones that I've currently fished with. I have about a dozen more that are still new in the package that I'll get to if I lose these or for some reason these become a problem. But among these 7, they're not all the same. They're meant to be the same, and they're different colors, but they don't all catch fish the same way. Some are much more effective at catching fish than others, and this is something that always bothered me, and I tried to figure out what it was, what are the factors that make one better than the other, and I have part of it figured out. I don't know if I have the whole thing figured out, but I certainly have part of it figured out, and that's what we're going to share with you today. So this is the first Top Dollar lure I've ever bought. This was years ago. I hope I never lose this one because it's one of the better ones. It catches fish all the time. And not all of them catch fish at the same rate. Now this Top Dollar lure is a great bait. They all catch fish, don't get me wrong. But some catch way more than others. And there's gotta be a reason for it. I mean, I've tested this day in and day out and at night. I just know that some work better than others, and this is one of the ones that has caught me a lot of fish over the years. Smallmouths especially seem to like this particular one. Now, I've lost a few of these over the years. One I threw into a tree a couple years ago. Actually, it was last year. And somebody that I met on Lake Wallenpaupack found it. That was Spike. So Spike got one of my better Top Dollar lures. That was a really good fish catcher. So Spike, if you're watching, hold on to that bait because it catches them. I also had one that was like this, a gold-plated one. That was probably the best one I ever had, and I lost it to a fish last year. I caught so many fish on that gold-plated one. So why are they different? What is the difference? Well, I'm going to pick up one here. This is just one I haven't fished with much yet, and I'm going to shake it, and you hear this rattle. So there's one that rattled. There's one rattle. I'm going to pick up another one. This one I put a feather tail on. Okay. I'm going to pick up this one. This one's pretty loud. Now I'm going to pick up the one that I know is a really good fish catcher. It's not as loud. It's more subtle. And when these things, the way I like to work these at night, especially for stripers, is very, very subtly on the surface. Just twitch, twitch, twitch. And what I notice is that when I'm doing that on some baits, you can hear when you're twitching it, hear that? You can hear that ball rolling back and forth. And I actually think that's kind of a turnoff on some nights when the water's real calm. Most nights the water's pretty calm. And I found that the ones that don't seem to make so much noise are the ones that catch the fish the best. And I put it to the ultimate test. This one here, I've painted chrome silver. You can see it's all beat up. It's because I caught a ton of fish on it. But I didn't always catch fish on this. This was one of those loud rattle ones. It rattled when I would go through the water and I could never catch any on it. So I did the modification. The modification is this. There is no rattle in this. It doesn't make any noise. And ever since I modified it, I'm telling you, it caught way more. I couldn't catch stripers on it, barely. I mean, I had to really be patient with it to catch the stripers. When I stopped it from rattling, that is when this thing became a killer. And it's all beat up. The paint is coming off of it. I need to repaint it with the chrome paint because it's just beat to heck. So this is the modification. It's a real simple thing. It only takes a few minutes to do. I don't take the rattle out. I just drill a hole in a specific strategic spot. We'll show you how we do that. I pour some glue in there, and then I do something special. This is a trick that was shown to me by a great fisherman named John Tosca using baking soda and super glue. Some of you may know about this. I'm sure a lot of you don't. But when you mix baking soda and super glue, it turns into a hard, almost like rock-like substance. And we'll show you that here in a few minutes, and then we'll show you how we utilize that to make this topwater modification that'll make some of your baits much more effective when you don't want them to make noise. So this one is that gold-plated one. This same color bait I've caught was probably the best top dollar lure I ever owned. This one, it doesn't catch them like that one did. And it's a very noisy one. You can hear it makes a lot of noise. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna turn it into a noiseless one, and then we're gonna test it on the water next year or sometime later this year. And I will bet you that it'll become a much better lure when I do that. Now, how do I know where to drill the hole? Well, fortunately, I have one here that is kind of clear. You can see that metal ball in there. Hopefully you can see that going back and forth. And so what I want is I want that ball to be in the very back of the bait like that. So I'm going to use this bait to figure out where I need to drill the hole in this one. And then once we're going to drill that hole just slightly in front of the ball, and then we're going to insert our glue in there, and then we're going to top it off with the baking soda, and it'll harden up, and you won't have to do any other thing. It won't let water get in there. In the past, when I would drill a hole, I'd have to find a way to figure out how to fill the hole. You know, I'd have to put glue in there and let it dry and put more glue in there. Or I'd have to, if it was a bigger hole, I'd get like a little wooden dowel and stick a little wooden dowel in there and shave it down, or a piece of cord. Don't have to do any of that anymore because this baking soda trick just makes it so much easier and so much faster. So first we'll show you what this baking soda does when you put a little bit of super glue on it, and then we'll show you the modification. So I'm going to change the camera around so that you can see what we're doing here. Here we go. So I'm going to pour a little bit of baking soda onto this piece of cardboard here, and then we'll put some glue on it and we'll show you what it does. All right, now we'll put our glue on there. Put a couple drops of glue on there, and we'll mix it in. And what it does is it crystallizes and turns into almost like a crystal, or it's hard. So that'll harden up and fill that hole. And it's as hard as a rock. I mean, it's real strong. It's a strong bond. And so that's how we're going to use it. We're going to actually pour a little baking soda over the hole once we fill it with the glue. All right, let's show you how we do that. So I've used my clear bait to position where I want to put that hole. It's a little bit further than 1/4 inch up from the back of the bait. So now I'm going to take my bait that I want to do this with, compare the two, and I'll mark it with my finger and then drill the hole. So it's going to be right here. So it's best to use a variable speed drill to drill this hole because it just gives you more control where you want to drill the hole. So we'll do that with this one. Almost in. All right, we're in. I want that hole clear so that we can drop that glue. I can see the ball down in there, so this is a perfect spot to drop that glue in there. All right. Okay, so I've got my super glue here. I'm using Loctite, but you can use any type of super glue as long as it's super glue. It works with the baking soda. So we're gonna fill this cavity up with the glue. Get a little bit of more light here for everybody. That should make it a little more visible. All right, we got that cavity full. Now we're just gonna take a pinch of baking soda and throw it on there. And we're just gonna let it on there like that. Let it do its little chemical reaction. And that'll harden it up, and it'll just be, we'll take a file and we'll smooth that over, or you can use sandpaper, and it'll be done. So in a couple of minutes, in a minute or two, it takes longer to get the supplies ready. It's crazy, but it's a very effective mod. So we're gonna let that crystallize a little bit more, just blowing out the excess now. So now we're left with just a crystallized lump of glue coming out of where that hole was. So we're gonna let that go just for a few more minutes here to make sure that it's fully cured, and then we'll take a file and file it down, and it'll be ready to go. You could actually fish with it this way. It's not gonna have any real negative impact on the lure. And as long as you don't drill that hole too far up, you're not adding any significant weight to the lure either. I've checked this out where I've actually weighed a bait without the mod and with the mod, and it was an insignificant amount of weight, very, very small addition of weight. Makes no difference at all as far as how the bait works. It sits in the water. All right, so we'll take the file here and file this down a little bit, just so that it's more even with the bait. You could also use sandpaper to do this. And there you have it. It's even now. It's even now with the top of the bait. You can paint that if you want, or use a marker. I'm not even gonna bother. It makes no difference as far as how the fish are seeing this bait. All right, let's check it out. So that's the mod. You just wanna, you can do it so quickly and so effectively, and it's a very easy thing to do. One thing to be sure about that I didn't show or mention is, depending on the size of the hole you drill, when you're pouring that glue in there, sometimes because there's no vent hole, you need to make sure that you're getting enough in there. So what I'll do is I'll take something like a paper clip and just poke a hole or two in there to make sure the glue is getting down into the cavity. And so, I might have to do that a few times, add more glue, do it again, add more glue until you have that cavity filled with glue. Then you can add your baking soda and you're good to go. Well, I hope you thought the video was useful and helpful, and I encourage you to try this on some of your top waters to make them silent. Certainly there's a time and a place for noisy top waters and top waters with rattles, but just as much so there's a time and a place for silent ones, especially in the waters that I fish here, where there's a lot of fishing pressure and the fish hear these things all the time. When you get a silent bait up there, not making that same kind of noise and yet looking like that struggling bait fish, it can make all the difference. Try it and see if you agree. Till next time, be safe out there. Hope to see you on the water. And if you want to see another video about the effectiveness of a top dollar lure, take a look at this one right here. As always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.